Let's get started. I would like to once again welcome you for joining this particular session. I sort of, briefly had a chance to look into your bio, and I thought you've been doing quite a lot as far as writing or producing content is concerned. So I was curious, how did you sort of, transition from being perhaps a professional in IT to being perhaps an entrepreneur? What was the transition like?
Yeah, so as of maybe 6 years or so ago, I really started to get into producing content and getting involved with community. So I've been in IT for 22 years or something, and was it 16 of those years that I would just go to work, do my job, and get things done, and I didn't really think anything of it. But as of 6 years ago, I decided I ran into a product called PowerShell, a scripting language, and that really excited me because I could automate so many different tasks that were taking forever. And for whatever reason, I just decided, you know what, I'm going to start sharing my experiences with this and with other things that I work on. So I started a blog, and that blog was adamtheautomator.com. And at that time, I would just periodically share some posts of, hey, look at this cool thing that I did on this with this task, or look at this script that I wrote. And essentially, it was for my own documentation purposes. I would go back and read other posts that I had written before that I had forgotten about. At the time, I had comments on the blog, and I was able to start interacting with people, sort of on accident. I started interacting with various people that were struggling with the same thing, getting compliments. Hey, yeah, this helped me out greatly. And since then, that kind of grew into me figuring out that I like to write and I like to teach a lot, and that kind of snowballed into me doing more blogging, getting more involved on Twitter, really kind of being an evangelist for PowerShell and a lot of other IT concepts. And that kind of snowballed, and then I eventually went into writing articles other than my blog, and then that kind of boiled into doing video courses. That then got me into more of the community, which then I got awarded the Microsoft MVP award from Microsoft. That's when I started really working directly with Microsoft on various things, and going to the Microsoft campus, and really just throwing myself all into the community and the tech, and just really at the same time just building a lot of content. Since then, I've written probably over 1,000 different articles now, published a couple books, and it's kind of where it all started. Where I just kind of started from a blog, from wanted to be a part of a community and just helping some people, and that kind of snowballed from there.
Mm-hmm. Interesting, because what you did was you use your interest, your hobby into something that you're now perhaps generating revenue out of it.
Mm-hmm.
And and what kind of challenges did you think people like you, like who are into this content space, generally have, as far as getting out there, as far as outreach is concerned, or maybe being well known is concerned? Like, how do you think the transition was for you?
It was I actually did a post on this a while back, where I started building, actually thinking of myself and what I do as a business and monetizing this was fairly recently. It was only I don't know, maybe 2 or 3 years ago or something like that. So I originally started, I had a full-time job. I wasn't making any money from blogging or articles or any of these things. I really didn't think of it as a business. I just thought of it as kind of like a fun thing. And during that time, whenever I wasn't focusing on the money per se, I would just focus on just writing things that I would enjoy about, and that I like doing it, and just helping a lot of people. that kind of started establishing me as an authority in the space that I am, because I was so prevalent. I was producing so much content. I've had many comments over the years of, you seem to be everywhere, because, I would focus more. I was so passionate and just really wanted to uh, to share as much as I could about a particular place. I would find all these different sites where I would start writing articles and things like that. And I really kind of saturated the niche that I'm in with my name. And eventually, people started recognizing my name versus recognizing the niche. So let's say that they would maybe they would eventually search it. They would start out in Google, say I want to search for PowerShell something, whatever the niche that I'm in, and then they would eventually find me and, oh, this guy helped me out with this, whatever it is. And eventually, what I was seeing is that since I've been for years now building up the authority in this space, that people would start going directly to my blog, going directly searching for my name, and then just seeing what kind of content that I would produce. And that kind of led to the, I don't like the word, but the quote unquote influencer in this space. That kind of established me as kind of an authority in my particular space. And at that point, then what I found is there's still going to be a whole lot of people just going to Google and searching for whatever they want, or hearing about me. But I found that looking, especially from the keyword searches and some of the comments that I've got on Twitter, is that people would say, hey, I came to your blog, or I searched for your name. And it's kind of the other way around. They search for your name first, and then they see all the other content that you're doing, versus the other way of seeing the specific kind of problem that they have, or the specific kind of content that they need, and discovering you along the way. So it's kind of a neat evolution, kind of looking back on it.
Mhm. So do you think the trick was that you identified your niche and you stuck to that, and then you kept on working on that, so that whenever people started searching for example, PowerShell that you mentioned, or the problems that they had around it, they would first of all come to your blog and then see like maybe you've already written something about it, right? So like I said, like maybe identifying your niche was important in the beginning.
Yes, very important. That's what has allowed me to kind of expand out from that initial niche. Though my original niche was PowerShell, and at the time, I think I got lucky because at the time that niche was fairly smaller. But since Microsoft had put so much backing behind it, it got more popular. More people starting to use it, and it gained a lot in popularity over the years. And that's one thing that really did help me. I started out when it was a smaller niche, and it just kind of grown over time. And since then, after establishing that niche and figuring out what I'm really passionate about, what I really enjoy building content about, because I couldn't have written 1,000+ articles and hundreds of blog posts and books and courses and everything that I'd done if I didn't care about what I was doing. So that was the main thing, is I really wanted to build all this content. And since I have all this content, establish my niche, have a bunch of content, now that I'm seeing that I'm doing that, you kind of build that that uh, authority space. And now once I've gathered a decent sized audience, now I'm trying to, my interests have changed a little bit, and I wanted to expand out from that initial niche. So now that I'm kind of spidering out other niches, so like in my area, it's cloud computing, Azure, AWS, DevOps, things like that. Some other little related areas that are spiring out. That's what I'm trying to do now that I've established my kind of myself in this specific space. Now I just kind of follow my interests, and now that I have a sort of authority in the one space, it's easier for me to kind of branch off into other spaces and try to to gather an audience, build the content, and eventually monetize that content in whatever way.
Hmm. Hmm. Yeah, that's interesting because what I've seen is the content creators usually talk about different topics, right? They talk about, let's say, for example, cloud computing, or maybe AI, or those kind of topics in general. But you had those expertise, and that sort of draw a lot of attention from your readers, and now you are distributing your interest into other sector, which is really nice, because then you would perhaps also have audience on the other spectrum,
Yeah,
so.
it's much easier now to get followers and viewership and really build out another brand.
Mhm.
Whenever you have an existing brand, I started off in a smaller niche. Now I'm trying to branch off into the larger niches, which I probably wouldn't ever even had the chance, even get the eyeballs or anything, if I didn't already have a solid foundation in a smaller niche at the time. So now I'm finding that I can kind of branch off, after my Twitter followers, I say, hey, I'm going to start this new thing. How many of you would be interested in it? And you get, I don't know, a few hundred different responses, and you can just eventually, you kind of siphon them off and say, well, hey, I'm doing this over here. I'm doing this over here. Much easier to start from that way rather than just starting from scratch.
Interesting. And what do you think about, in a different context, what do you think about the time when you started your IT career, right? Perhaps, like you said, 20 plus years ago. And maybe at this time, the internet was still primitive. And now we are into this era where we are already talking about 5G, and then the speed of internet and whatnot. How do you see the evolutions, right? As far as one, as a IT professional, and second, as a writer now, so how do you see the evolution?
Yeah, I mean, I see that evolution, especially now with the pandemic going on. Another big topic that I've been kind of talking about is remote work. So, between there's so many different things going on. Like you said, 20 years ago, the internet existed, but it wasn't anything with what I've seen. But if I want to I've got lots of hats, so I'll put my IT professional hat on.
Yeah.
If I put my IT professional hat on, as an IT pro, the problems and the projects that that we work on now are so different than what they used to be. So, previously, whenever I first got started in IT, I would remember taking a CD and just walking around the entire university campus that I worked on and installing Office or installing whatever, and it was much more hands-on, getting your hands dirty, getting in the data center, fixing servers, racking servers, lots more physical activity. Now, since everything, so many things have gone towards the cloud, especially now I've been involved in the cloud computing space for the past, so I don't know, probably 3 or 4 years, something like that, heavily in the cloud computing space. And now, everything is virtual. Now everything is, all the servers are located in Azure, AWS, or Google's data centers. And I can't remember the last time that I actually stepped foot in a data center and had to rack a server. So, that sort of thing is becoming far less prevalent than what it used to be, because all the computing and all the power is in these data centers, and now everybody can work remotely, work virtually. We don't have to worry about the physical infrastructure like we used to. Everything now is just a software. Everything is pretty much software. Even the infrastructure that we used to build, even all the servers and everything like that, everything is just software now. We could just write code. We call it infrastructure as code. We could just write code to automate pretty much anything we want. Everything from the server that you need to build, all the way up to installing any kind of software, getting everything completely set up. Um, so that's from the IT professional perspective, is the cloud computing. It's just overwhelmed everything, and it's changed the role significantly. And I can't think, what was the
Yeah,
details of
now
the second
I was
question?
thinking, yeah, the second part was more on, because you had a two-part of, let's say, your career, right? So if you want to think about the career in the past, you were simply an IT professional. And now it's more of a content producer and so forth. And from the content producing standpoint, how do you see the evolution? Perhaps you used to write about, X, Y, and Z in the past, or around the context of that. But now, that has also changed, right? The content marketing aspect has changed. Everything has changed, right? So how do you see that evolution as well?
Yeah, as far if I want to put my content marketing hat on, I've written a few hundred articles for various vendors, and I can definitely speak to that. Not necessarily the 20 years I've probably been working with software and technology vendors for I don't know, 4 or 5 years now. And since then, I have noticed a lot more focus on automation. So previously, marketing automation is a big aspect of automation that so many different content marketers do. Marketing or automating the publishing process, automating even I've read lots of articles on there trying to automate the actual content creation part of it. So automation has taken over a lot. I've seen a lot of different marketing professionals, CMOs talked about we need to do a better job. We need to cut down on the amount of people that we actually have building this content and focus more on automation, on AI, on machine learning and things like that, and really focus that way. And also, in addition to really talking about and implementing more AI, along that same veins is SEO. So I run my blog, and I try to focus on SEO, and I have a lot of the clients that I work with also focus heavily on SEO, and that's another big thing where the whole aspect of natural language processing. Google is getting smarter about what kind of content that they want to rank on the first page or whoever that they have, and the clients and myself and clients, we're all searching for how do we build the best kind of content out there. And it used to be I've been in the kind of the SEO internet marketing space for, it's probably been 10 something years now, off and on. And before it was, okay, we just need to find the best keywords to just put in these articles here and there. But now it's more about keyword stuffing, but it's more about how do you, it's more about the website's theme or the article's theme of like, really, how do you measure user engagement? And Google has so many different metrics that they use now based on machine learning and AI that they know based on, if the user's behavior is XYZ, that means they're satisfied, then we're going to rank that higher for that sort of thing. So essentially nowadays, AI, machine learning, data science, all of those topics are huge that I've been writing about, and I've been casually researching.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. You pointed out a few different topics there. One of them, obviously, interesting one is AI for content marketing or content creation. I'm also curious on that part as well, and I'm also thinking, how are we going to separate a content that is written by a human, using all the research capabilities, all the knowledge perspective, versus someone, like feeding a AI with some loosely loosely researched keywords, and then the AI does the rest, right? So I'm kind of thinking, how does the Google now value those two different contents? I'm just curious there.
Yeah. I mean, I think that, as far as AI building content right now, I mean, I've seen news sites that AI is built, and it all depends on the specific niche. So let me give you an example. So I run my Adam the Automator blog, and it's essentially all just how-to content, how to build the server, how to install software or whatever. And in that regard of like, the AI could, if I say, show me how to, I don't know, how to boil an egg. You have step-by-step instructions. Those are pretty much black and white, boil the egg, get out the pot, put it in the pot, step-by-step instructions, more binary instructions.
Mhm.
However, those used to do better in Google and get more views, but now we need to get more. Things are getting more competitive, and I think readers really want to learn more want to see the human side of whatever they're reading about. So, for example, I have a guest author program that I have a few dozen different writers writing for me, and I'm the primary editor, and I try to coach them on better ways to write. And one thing that I say is you need to build a story around what you're showing. I don't want a tutorial to show here's how you boil an egg. Well, do this 1, 2, 3, very binary rote steps. Anybody can do that. A machine could just knock out the steps like that. But what I always tell my writers is you need to build a story. You need to put context. You need to provide the why. Why are you doing this? Why are you doing that? And interject your experiences. So I try to hire technology experts in their particular fields, and you can't get that that knowledge of, oh, by the way, while I was doing this sometimes happens, or by the way, while I'm doing this sometimes happens. The things that aren't necessarily recorded on the internet, you're not going to be able to get that real world experience in a lot of content. That's why I don't like 75% of the content out there that's not written by true experts. People that just want to just throw out content and get a bunch of affiliate links and things like that. It's not really, you can tell it's not written by the person that actually knows what they're talking about, which just kind of researched out. I think AI would be a similar, would have a similar effect.
Mhm. Yeah, I was talking to a few different entrepreneurs on the AI space, and they're doing a lot of let's say uh, research on the human written capabilities, right? Or closer to human written capabilities, which with different keywords. You're putting those keywords into place, and then the AI does the research for you and then creates content for you. And I still need to explore those tools myself. But indeed, I've heard about those tools. They are into the research phase, or maybe some of them are advanced stages already. So that's where I was getting the curiosity from.
Yeah, I'm definitely not an expert by any means in that area, but I've definitely heard about it and I've seen some of the results.
Yeah.
And as of right now, I've never seen any kind of purely AI produced content that actually reads well, that I would actually publish myself.
Mhm, mhm. And talking about digital marketing or content marketing, how do you see the evolution from now onwards? Like you mentioned about Google being smart, and then it's tracing the human centric or human written content, or focusing those content. And how do you see the evolution from here onwards, right? So 2021 and beyond. From your perspective, how does the content marketing space, look like beyond from 2021?
Yeah, I mean, I think that it's just like many other things in the tech world now. Content marketing has moved more towards um, sales, more like sales marketing, that rather than the company is actually talking about their product and saying, hey, this is great, buy my stuff. But now, the past few years has all been about influencer marketing. So I've been a quote unquote influencer for a few different vendors out there, and now the customers don't want to hear from from the companies themselves, even if the company tells them that and it's true that their product is going to solve all these different problems and help them out significantly. Especially people, IT pros and geeks in my niche, is that they don't trust the companies anymore. They don't trust the big companies saying we can do this for you, we can do this for you. They need to hear it from a person that has actually used it, someone that they trust. They don't really trust the companies. So that's one thing that's been happening for a few years now, influencer marketing. And it's been the marketing aspect has more been starting from the grassroots. That's another reason that one of the reasons why I think that my blog has gotten popular and a lot of other blogs in the same area was it started from a person that had no intention of selling you, anything. They're just providing you the value and say, hey, I have experience with this. I have done. I have worked with this product before. Look at this. This is what it does. And there's really no, expectations for sure. I mean, sure, it'd be nice if maybe you have an affiliate link in there and then you make some money on the side. But essentially, it's marketing has moved more towards the individual. Like my wife doesn't. She says she never goes to she doesn't go to the mall anymore. She doesn't go to these big companies anymore because she can just go on Instagram and see, all of her, influencers, trying on different clothes and saying, I like this, I like this. It's coming from a real, it's from a real perspective. And I think that is a challenge though for a lot of vendors that I've worked with, is that it's a challenge because they need, at the end of the day, they need to sell you a product. And sure, just providing just value with, here's these clothes. Look at try this clothes on. This fits well. This doesn't well. My angle. This product does this, or this product installs the software faster, or this product is not as fast. Providing that pure value like that is great, but at the end of the day, I think the real struggle with vendors or companies is at the end of the day, they need to sell something. They can't just give freely all this information about all these related topics, but they need to actually sell it. And I think that's the big, at least in my area of technology, that's the big struggle that I've seen, that I've dealt with companies like, well, there has to be a pitch somewhere. And, I don't know if it's my individual area of, untrusting geeks and sysadmins that like, I don't want you to sell me anything. But that's been the real struggle of me personally, of like, well, how do I balance, giving people and helping people just providing just simple value without expecting anything in return, versus figuring out how to monetize that without really, feeling like you're a sellout.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I mean, the thing is like you're focusing on the solution aspect, and then hopefully you can turn around and then making it more of a revenue model for you,
Mm-hmm.
which is really nice to think about. And and you know, I'm a little bit curious on the other side of you now that you've spoke to the other topic about cloud computing. It has been a hot topic for quite some time now, because of the leaders, like Google or Amazon. They are into this space, and perhaps a lot of companies are moving towards the cloud. And what do you think has the cloud enabled us to do more now? You touched that a little bit in the previous session as well. Um, Now, talking about the opportunity that cloud has to offer, I also happen to do a little bit of research on the AI space, and then I'm just thinking, from your opinion, what has cloud enabled us to do more beyond what in the past was possible using the regular infrastructure?
I probably think, I mean, the cloud has done so much, but I think by far and away the biggest advantage of the cloud is just the concept of infinite scalability.
Mhm.
Right? Previously, you would have a physical server, you would put a physical server in a rack, and you would have an internet connection with, and all of these would have, your internet connection would have 10 megabits capacity, or your server would have 200 IOPS or whatever it is. There was a limit to these things. I mean, now with the cloud, and how all these data centers are connected to one another with, I mean, sometimes terabit plus connectivity, and millions of servers all connected together. I mean, essentially, I've never ran into a situation where I had to worry about scale.
Mhm.
I've built infrastructure through the various companies where, if they have an e-commerce application, for example, a website, and during the Christmas time, they need to scale that up. Well, there's automated ways to just scale up the resources that you want. You're running on two servers during the year, and your application starts to get an onslaught of people just coming on and on and on. Normally that would just completely crash and bring down the server. Now you can configure all these things with just some code, just writing up some code where it'll automatically scale out to hundreds and hundreds, sometimes even thousands of servers, and this user never know. Everything is automated in the background, and you can scale pretty much infinitely in the cloud. I don't know. I've never ran into any situation where anybody has ran into a resource problem where Azure or AWS didn't actually have the resources that they need to run. Scalability, number one, is definitely the number one thing that the cloud has brought to us. And number two, like I mentioned before, everything is software now. Everything is code. You can automate. Whenever everything is code, everything is flexible. You don't need a server here. We'll just tap a few keys and that server is gone. You don't need a feature over here. We'll tap a few keys and the feature is gone. Since everything is in code now, everything is just so flexible, and you can just scale out infinitely. Plus automation, I would say automation, code, scalability. I mean, I could go on and on about the big benefits of cloud computing nowadays.
Yeah, also, the flexibility aspect I thought was interesting. I also used to use the regular hosting, and then I had to move to IBM Cloud because I thought it was much easier doing that. I don't know why I chose IBM, but I I just did it because I thought it was cheaper. I don't know. Um, yeah, I mean, there's a lot of transition now as far as technology is concerned, and you talk about different things, and I'm curious on a lot of aspect, right? So, and one of the aspect is entrepreneurship, and also being able to work in this difficult time, right? So, perhaps the kind of industry that we are at a better placed industry. But what do you think this COVID has, brought to, in front of us as far as the challenge is concerned?
Yeah, I mean, that's like you were saying. I'm very fortunate to be essentially in the best position I've been career-wise my entire career in 2020. So, I think I've been blessed in that regard because, all I need is an internet connection and a laptop. I don't need to be anywhere. And I've been that way for years. So I've been, pretty much set from the get-go to do, to work in a pandemic. And especially since now everything relies so much on technology, especially with remote work. There's so many different there's so many different other products and services that are related that are needed to support remote work. I read that Microsoft Teams had increased 100 and something million users, and they were
Mm.
able to scale that up just because of the scalability of the cloud. And because of that, I've seen other areas needing attention. So let's say that there are 100 million more users on Teams. Well, okay, that means there needs to be better internet connections. That means there needs to be better policies and procedures, and all of that. Just the need for remote work has just, there's so many different areas to that area. Just the remote work thing, as far as the digital space is concerned, has been, it's changed so much over the past year. I'm trying to think here. Really, I can't. I wish that I hear lots of the news saying unemployment is down, and I really personally haven't seen that. I haven't seen that. Like, I think I'm in a bubble to some regards, myself and the community around me, because we deal so much with technology, and now technology is even more important than what it used to be. I think that I myself and the people in my community and the people that I talk with on a daily basis, job loss, there's been a few here and there, but for the most part, it's been job gain because, especially from the remote work perspective, we need more people to manage the remote connections. We need more people to manage the bigger resources that we need, the faster internet connections we need to support and manage all that different infrastructure. So I think, I think at least people in my space, we've actually been better off in 2020.
Mhm. Yeah, I think we are privileged. I also consider myself in this particular time that I belong to a privileged industry.
Hmm.
But I see travel industry, I see restaurants and those kind of industry where you needed more human to human interaction, and that sort of industries are suffering by far, I would say. Um, but it is what it is, and we are in this particular niche, and there are so many challenges, right, as an entrepreneur, right? So even though you perhaps have a limited operational challenges compared to large enterprises, but still there are some challenges that perhaps you would be doing better off meeting people at times. Can you maybe look into those challenges pre-COVID versus where we are now?
Yeah, I would say definitely the human face-to-face interaction has suffered. I've been I'm a major introvert, and I've I've kind of always been a loner, but I could definitely tell for sure, especially for these past few months, I was telling my wife, I feel a little depressed. I've been holed up in my office in here in my house for essentially months now, quarantining, and that gets into the psychology of really anybody. I think that I'm an introvert and I don't need a whole lot of human interaction, but I find that when I do actually talk to someone and interact with people other than my family, it really puts me in a better mood. And I think that essentially that better mood, what I found is it really affects my work, and it's kind of a spiral
Mhm.
effect. But as far as the challenges that I've ran into, for me personally, I would say that I would begrudgingly say, well, I need more human interaction, which I think that I do. But honestly, I personally haven't ran into very many challenges really whatsoever from this whole pandemic.
Mhm. Yeah, I mean, the thing is, it really depends on what kind of business operations you're doing, and maybe some entrepreneurs feel more challenged compared to others, depending on what kind of
Yeah, I
business.
mean,
Yeah.
I'm definitely not a good person. I probably don't represent the majority by any means.
Yeah, yeah. No, no, no. That's the what do you call uniqueness of being an entrepreneur, right? So you have your own unique story to share because you've been doing this for quite some time, and that is interesting on its own because you mentioned you are not a very extrovert person, but at the same time you managed to do quite a bit, and that is interesting for a lot of people who might be listening to this conversation, right? So I'm quite excited that you've been able to do quite a lot of interesting things. And and how do you get this kind of energy in let's say you wake up and then you are like thinking, this is something that I'm going to write today, or maybe I'll ask my pool of writers, guys, can you maybe focus on this particular sector? How do you get that inspirations, or how do you get that ideas from?
That's a very, very good question, and I've thought about this myself. My wife has actually, as off and on through the years, has asked me this similar question. It's a very good question. Um, I think when it comes down to work and career, I think it kind of comes down to a couple of different personalities. Um, Ever since 15 years or so or more ago, I've always had a side hustle. I've always felt like I've needed the freedom, and I've needed the control over what I do, um, how much money I make, and that's kind of been my personality for a long time. And I know some people have that, some people don't. I think that what's really differentiates an entrepreneur from a typical 9 to 5 person with a job is that people like me. Will never be happy in a job. I know I kind of, I was in IT for 20 something years, and I always felt in the back of my head I was just going to work to make money, and then I would do the things that I enjoy to do on the side. And as of, what is it, 5 something years ago or so, I finally made the leap and started working on my own. And ever since then, I've been doing better spiritually, financially, every shape and form of fashion, because I'm finally doing what I want to do. And I think that I think it's a different type of personality that really wakes me up in the morning and makes me want to produce content, makes me want to think up a new business idea, makes me want to just explore and try different things. I'm a very curious person. I always want to know what is going to happen next. What can my personal actions do to affect my outcome? And I really think that really differentiates me from somebody that's going to the job 9 to 5, working for 40, 50 years, something like that, maybe in the same job and going home. It's more of a risk tolerance. Maybe I've always been kind of a bigger risk taker, where
Mhm.
I would much rather start something new for the chance of just exploding in success, versus never even getting a chance and regretting that I ever tried. I
Mhm.
think that's one of the big things. It's just essentially my personality, and I don't know where that personality came from. I don't have any other entrepreneurs in my family, my friends. I just kind of think it was just ingrained in me for the longest time now.
Mhm. And are you enjoying this particular moment where you are able to sort of, live the life that you always wish to have?
Yes, I mean, like I was telling you that the 2020 is the best year of my career financially,
Mhm.
and since I have the freedom to kind of come and go as I want, and I don't really have to do, I don't have to put in the hours that I do now. Is knowing that I can just take off at 2:30 and take my dive. She has a doctor's appointment today, or I can just take a few days off here during the week. To know that I've over the years I've built up the business in a way that it doesn't really need me to run anymore. That's the biggest thing I like about the whole life stuff, is and automating a lot of the activities and tasks that you do, to where I have the freedom now to just kind of do what I want. And I think whenever I have the freedom to do what I want, I get to do what I'm interested in. Which, when I do what I'm interested in, I pour a lot of more passion and motivation into it, and that just kind of.
I lost you for a bit.
Oh,
Yeah. Okay. You're back now. Good.
yep.
Okay.
Where was I at my rambling? Oh, it says my internet connection is unstable. Okay, it must be
Yeah.
my connection.
Yeah. Okay. You're talking about your passion, and then your years you spent, in order to build a business, right? You build different streams, and perhaps now you don't need to think about how the revenue is coming from, because you have automated everything. Maybe you're talking
Yeah,
along the lines. So.
yeah. The passive income stream. That's one thing that we haven't touched on yet. That's been a big portion of my business portfolio for years now, where I'm focusing on passive income, whether that be royalties, the blog through blog monetization through ads and things like that, where passive income has been a huge component of what I do now. There's no way that I could work the way that I work now and have the freedom that I have without passive income coming in.
Mhm. Mhm. Yeah, interesting. And what other sectors are the technologies that you are interested in writing, or maybe as a curiosity standpoint, you are more curious about?
Yeah, right now, I'm starting a new brand, and I tend to do one thing and then and then do that for a long time, learn as much as I can about it, and then take that knowledge and then take it and then teach other people to do that. How I'm gonna kind of doing that now, since I've written for so long and produced content for years now, where I'm trying to take that, and now I'm going to start teaching other people how to write better, how to build courses, how to essentially build build a lifestyle business, a brand, a content brand, to allow them to eventually maybe quit their job and things like that. So that's kind of my new interest at the moment. I've kind of waned and waxed and waned for a while in different interests, but like right now, as of the past few months or so, I really started thinking about, okay, I'm going to start building another kind of content business, but this one is not going to be focused on teaching IT professionals. It's going to be a broader area or broader audience of teaching people, how to curate content, how to build content that people actually want to read, and everything that goes into that. So that's kind of my latest interest and my latest foray, I guess you could say.
Mhm. And I was asking maybe more in line with technologies, meaning, are you curious about maybe AI space, or maybe cryptocurrencies, or blockchain as such, you know? And why I was asking is, like, maybe in future we will be able to see some of the content written by you in this particular space, you know?
Yeah, I've done a few articles on AI and machine learning, but it's one area that I don't have a whole lot of experience in, and I don't tend to write
Mhm.
around topics that I don't have a lot of experience in. I actually have done a course on Azure Cognitive Services, which is a an AI based text to speech translation service, and that's the one part that I did get into some machine learning on. But yeah, for the most part, it's mostly been um, uh, automation, cloud automation, DevOps, trying to blend software development and operations together. But I really haven't focused much, and I really haven't really dove into to AI per se in all of my content creation interests.
Mhm. Mhm. And as far as content creation is concerned, you know, I also try to maybe uh, think you as a you know, what do you call, a creative content creator. I would maybe try to put you in that category, because you've been writing a lot, and when you write to a certain point, you find a certain style that appeals you the most. What sort of style do you think you like to write, or what sort of topic that you feel like, you know, this is something that I need to wake up early, and then I should start brainstorming ideas, and those kind of things? Like, where do you find, like, you know, okay, or what sort of topics that would wake you up in the morning?
I would when I was working full time, I would take topics for easy. I would just take the topic that I'm currently working with and start writing about it. Nowadays, since I don't work full time in IT, what I would typically do is, since I still want to write about, I still want to write relevant topics for my audience. So I will go to Reddit, and I will go to Stack Overflow and all these different forums, and see where my audience is and find out what questions they are asking about. And then I will kind of come up with vague ideas of various topics that that are popular out there, that people are asking about, that they have problems with. And then, instead of writing a simple forum reply that you get a paragraph or two, I will actually take the time and write an entire article on solution to XYZ, that goes into detail of this. And I think that that's one really good way that I use to get inspired by the content, because if you write about the content that people actually want to read, then that's where you start building up your SEO experience and getting more readers, and that's just one area that I do. As far as everything as far as inspiration is normally the forums. I usually just do lots of keyword research, figure out what's being taught, add a lot of strategy to my content creation. I would just write about whatever I was thinking about. Nowadays, I want to really focus more strategically and try to build, focus this on as a business rather than just a personal hobby like I once did.
Mhm, mhm. Yeah, because I was thinking there must be a creative process where you think about a topic, you brainstorm, and then finally execute the ideas that you had into writing, right? So that's
Mm-hmm.
where I thought it would be interesting as well for people who are just starting to write.
Yeah, I think if for somebody that's just starting to write, I always say first write about what you know about. Everybody knows something that somebody else doesn't know.
Mhm.
And that's when you get into the imposter syndrome of, well, everybody knows what I know. And in my area, people say, well, somebody's already written about what this is. But if you come from, experience, if you come from a level of knowing, being an authority and underwater basket weaving, or gardening, or with a special utility, or anything like that, any specific woodworking, any kind of specific area, I think anybody can build a business about it. If you, number one, you're an expert, you can provide those, that expertise, that real world expertise. And then also, once you can learn how to write and produce content, right, that's a whole nother skill. Once you can actually convey that information, that knowledge, into some form of content to share with anybody, I think anybody can build a successful business that way.
Mhm, mhm. Nice suggestion, I guess, for people who are just starting up. Um, so, so well, you mentioned about the future that you are leaning into, and where do you think we can check out some of the new work that you're going to put up?
Yeah, I mean, right now, people can go to adamtheautomator.com, or follow me on Bertram on Twitter. I have a new blog coming up. It's definitely not finished yet. It's still in the works, called Action Blogger, and
Okay.
that's going to contain lots of content around building a business, writing better content, discovering brainstorming ideas, content ideas, and things like that.
That's interesting. Okay, Adam. I think we had a wonderful session. I get to learn a lot about what you are doing at the moment, and I'm sure a lot of people who are going to listen to this session will be inspired by what you managed to do over the years. It's a challenging, thing, perhaps for everyone to achieve. But I'm sure there are people who are well motivated, and perhaps will try to echo the things that you just advise. And
Yep, I
yeah,
hope so.
yeah, and thank you for joining this particular session. It was pleasure talking to you.
Oh, well, thank you for having me.
Thank you. You take care.
All right, bye bye.
Bye.